Hello, welcome to the Comic Book Club. I'm your host, Camille Payne, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Amanda Comey. Amanda, how are you doing today?
I am doing pretty well now. We'll see how I'm doing in an hour.
Right. Okay, so today, in our second episode in Watchmen week, this is obviously a comments and stuff episode, which is the stuff where like we talk about comic book adjacent stuff, but not necessarily the actual book. So this is what this is, as some of you know, as some of you don't know. So we last week we did the Watchmen comic, right? The actual Watchmen comic. This year we
The
are
big the
doing
big yellow book, right?
the big yellow book, yes. And this week we are doing the movie that people said would never ever be made. So let's get to it. Watchmen is a movie released March 6, 2009, produced by Warner Brothers. It's directed by Zack Snyder, written by David Teese and David Hayter, who also voiced Solid Snake and was the star of the second direct-to-video Guyver movie based after the anime. It stars Molly Ackerman, Billy Crudup, Matthew Good, Carla Gugino, Jackie Earle Haley, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and Patrick Wilson. Its theatrical runtime is 163 minutes, so almost 3 hours long. So Amanda, we talked about Watchmen the book last week. You acknowledged that it's a great piece of literature, but not particularly fun to read, right?
Yes.
So what do you think of its movie adaptation?
I would say that it's a movie.
Uh huh.
That's it.
Oh wow. Okay.
Well, okay. It's Here's the thing. And I ran into this a lot when I was reviewing comics.
Okay.
When everyone does their job adequately, it's difficult to really complain, but that doesn't mean that it works.
Yes.
Like, the script was probably the best you could really hope for like a really faithful adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
The casting was fine. The costumes and the sets were good. A lot of the shots were literally from the comic book layout.
Yes.
Um, I would say the only thing about this movie that was obviously a fuck up is the soundtrack. That was the soundtrack was offensively bad. Like if you just muted this movie, it would be maybe tolerable. But
Wow.
it's hard to like nobody super failed here. It's just not greater than the sum of its parts, if that makes sense.
You know what? That's actually a really good way how like. Okay, I think that was pretty good, and that I think that's how I felt. But this time, as I watched it, I hate to say this, but I don't know if I like it. I definitely don't love it. You know what I'm saying? But
Like now that
it's
you're over the shock, you're maybe a little bit more accepting.
yeah, like it's all there. Like I can't complain, right? Like I can't. Well, I can because we're about to, but like you said, I'm just repeating what you said. Everybody did their job, but I am a little more forgiving. I think this movie is about as best as you can get. I think there's some adaptive choices that I don't agree with, especially with the ending. And I think some of the casting is shaky as hell.
Okay.
But overall, this is about look
It's hard to
right.
say what you would change, right?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I think that's it. But I think I know what the problem is.
Okay. I have a few things that I feel. But what do you think?
I can't believe I'm saying this. This movie might be too accurate to the comic books.
Okay.
Like, you would think that's what we would want, and like a comic book fan would tell you that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost too close to the material it's adapting. Like, no big choices or real choices were made, right? Like, cause okay, peep this, right? Watchmen, the comic book, was made as a commentary about comic books. It like Watchmen is satirical, but it's satirical in the way Scream is, as in it is talking about these tropes, it's picking on these tropes, it's picking these tropes apart while also being like a solid entry into the genre that is kind of picking apart.
Yeah.
I would like to have seen that with this movie in some way when like concerning superhero movies.
Right. So it should have been a critique of movies and not a critique of comic books.
Right, exactly. And there's some of that in there,
Mm-hmm.
but not nearly enough, in my opinion. And like maybe it's just too faithful.
Well, I was gonna say that there are maybe two places besides the ending where they were not faithful to the comic. And I feel like their choices to change or exclude the material betrays kind of a fundamental difference for how the movie writer, director, screenwriter, scripter, whatever, view the book compared to me.
Okay.
So the first one, and we maybe talked about this for a minute at the end last week, is the pirate book.
Yes.
But specifically, the characters at the newsstand.
Yes.
It was important for us to see normal people in this world,
right,
to understand, first of all, what this alternate world was like, but then also to give a damn when 3 million people die.
Okay.
So the fact that I think there was one shot where the newsstand shows up.
Yeah.
As like, it's more of like an Easter egg rather than an actual relevant part of the story.
Right.
So I think that them choosing, I understand you only have so much time, and like, why are you going to waste your money casting somebody to be psychiatrist number 2 and girlfriend number 5 and, guy reading comic book, whatever. So like, I can understand them being like, clearly we can cut all of the secondary characters, but like, believing that you can cut those secondary characters kind of, I feel like it means you missed the point of the book.
And
then the other thing that I felt like the movie creators had a different point of view on was, I would say, and this is probably what we're mostly going to talk about, and this is why I grabbed a drink before this. The problem of how sexy is Night Owl. and not just Night Owl specifically, but like, when I read the comic book, part of what I found really interesting was this sort of like were the Minutemen even cool? Like were they like good at being superheroes? Were they actually like strong and sexy and like, or I don't know. I kind of got the idea that they were schlubby and just kind of like slightly above average incompetence.
Right.
And the movie absolutely glamorizes them as heroes. Like there are like action sequences with choreography.
Yes.
I did not, reading the book, get the sense that Night Owl was like a guy who could do fight choreography. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, huh, I didn't know any of these characters are supposed to be sexy or cool. And they very clearly are in the movie. And that makes me feel like they read a different book.
Well, like that's the Zack Snyder thing, right? Like it's like the thing with like Batman and Superman, right? He didn't quite get Batman and Superman. That's why they like this weird funhouse version of those characters in those movies because he didn't quite get it. In his defense, right? Maybe that was his commentary on superhero movies. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and here's the thing. We I'm not going to defend it too hard. I just want to make that clear, right?
Hmm.
But the couple of scenes that he spruce up do happen in the book, right? They do beat up that game pretty badly in the comic book also.
Yeah.
And they do go down like the prison thing. It's only like a couple of panels. They do go down the prison thing and beat up a bunch of prisoners to get the Rorschach. So those things do happen. So like even in the comic book, they seem like they're competent fighters. Now, would they be doing kung fu? Maybe not.
Mm.
But those scenes, or at least those concepts, are in the book. Now, I do agree with you, maybe, like, especially Night Owl. Young Night Owl is really damn cool, right? Like,
Mm.
when he was the comedian, he just drops down, like he does out the owl ship, like, oh, that's Batman.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So look, I'm not going to argue with you, right? Like, but, so here's the thing about this movie. I've seen this movie a lot. I watched the Ultimate Cut, by the way, so I watched like the very long version. And the newsstand guy and the boy are actually in that version a lot more
Okay.
because they have to kind of like transition into the pirate parts because like I said, they put the Black Freighter cartoon into the movie, so they basically took the director's cut and the move and the cartoon movie Black Freighter and edited together to make damn near a movie version of the comic book. It's
Hmm.
a little clunky, but I will say this: the director's cut version, which I know you just against just watching the going out your way, is paced a lot better.
Okay.
That extra, like not necessarily the Black Freighter part, but if you could have found the director's cut, that extra 24 minutes paces this movie a lot better and is a lot more accurate to the book. You know what I'm saying? And it's just small things that they would do to make it better. Like in the theatrical version, when my Dr. Manhattan says "Leave me alone," in the book everybody disappears and he just in the room and he just in the studio by himself, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in the theatrical cut, but it does happen in the director's cut. So like it's little things like that. Then of course there's the Night Owl. Did you watch that by any chance?
I didn't yet.
Thanks, Amanda. But
Sorry, I was doing some really cool stuff today. If you want to talk about it later, I had a good excuse.
okay. But yeah, so like there's things, but yeah, like I do agree with you. You know what? I didn't even talk about my experience with this movie. So we talked about how like maybe like 3 or 4 years before this movie came out, I gave this book out like 7 or 8 times, and everybody stole the damn book
Yeah.
because they loved it so much. So imagine everybody sitting to watch a movie, right? And the fucking trailer comes. To me, it's still one of the greatest trailers ever, and it's backed by like the Smashing Pumpkins. The beginning of the end is the beginning. One of them dumbass sons of Smashing Pumpkins, but it sounds cool, right? And
Hmm.
it's just flashes of this comic book, right? That you've read and you've discussed ad nauseum for like the last few years. You know what I'm saying? And like you seeing like your first glimpse of what this movie is, and like it was amazing. It was almost like a fucking religious experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, they did
Yeah.
it. like you know what I'm saying? You like they did it. Then like the last shot in that trailer is like the glass palace coming out of Mars, and you just like, holy shit. Then you see the movie and it's kind of underwhelming. But that trailer is amazing. If they just would have made that trailer, I think I would have been satisfied.
I mean, isn't that what we said about Suicide Squad too?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But here's the thing, though. I like to call this Zack Snyder only other good movie.
Yeah.
But with that being said, man, there's so many like there's just okay. Oh, you know what? Let's talk about let's talk about the actors in this movie, okay?
Okay.
Let's start at the top. What do you think of that? What do you think of the casting choice for Doctor Manhattan?
Um, I thought he was fine.
Right.
I mean, you're not really supposed to have feelings about Dr. Manhattan. Yeah, I thought he was fine.
Just like my problem is the voice. I've
Okay.
always imagined Doctor Manhattan a much deeper voice than kind of what he had. He's almost a whisper in this movie,
He was very soft spoken.
right? And that's like and like that I wasn't expecting that, but yeah, it's a choice. There's a lot of bit blue dong in this movie.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot. There's a lot. Like wow, that's the funny thing is like, there's a couple of times where it's jiggles, and I
Hmm.
just bust out laughing. I just that he walks and it jiggles like ha ha ha. But okay, so just he's fine, right? He's just okay. Do you think he at least does a serviceable job as that character?
Yes. Again, this is one of those things where it's gonna be like everybody's fine, but
I
nobody
don't.
was amazing. Uh,
I see. That's why I had to disagree with you because I think this
okay.
movie,
All
this
right.
movie,
Well, we'll keep going then.
yeah, no,
Dr.
okay,
Manhattan's fine.
that,
I can't
that,
really imagine. Like, I don't like off the top of my head have someone who would have been better casting.
yeah, I think this movie needed bigger stars in some of these roles.
Okay.
But look, I'm before we go far, just like I said, there's two casting choices that are the best casting choices possible, and they're great and they're genius, and maybe they should have won some awards in my opinion. And there's two that almost fucking derails this movie.
Okay.
Now, can you give me the two that works the best in this movie? If you had to like think off the top of your head.
Um, I feel like Rorschach was all right.
Rorschach, yes, Rorschach and the comedian Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Jackie Earl Haley
Yeah.
are perfect. They
Yeah.
are they are great in this movie. Like to the point like oh I can't see nobody else playing them. I can't even think of better people to be Rorschach or the comedian. Like I remember when I seen Jeffrey Dean Morgan like I don't know, but like his performance is pitch fucking perfect, right? Same thing with Jackie Earl Haley is like it's almost like Jackie Earl Haley was born to play this role.
Yeah.
And like
Um,
go
go.
ahead, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I feel like Jeffrey Dean Morgan frequently plays the type of character that the comedian was critiquing.
Yeah,
So I feel like that's also kind of like relevant in how you choose the person for that character.
I mean, it's great. It's great. Like I said, it's great cast. And like I said, I think those two. Look. I got a controversial opinion. I think Jackie Earl Haley performance is just as good as Heath Ledger's in The Dark Knight. As far as disappearing behind the character and becoming and embodying the character, I feel like Jackie Earl Haley did just as good of a job as Heath Ledger did as the Joker. Now, those two choices are great.
Okay.
Molly Ackerman as Silk Spectre and Matthew Good as Ozymandias. I don't know. I don't.
I
I,
okay. I found the Malin Ackerman casting. Okay, so here's the thing.
okay.
Reading the book, I thought that Laurie was annoying.
Yes.
So I don't know if I can separate my my correct annoyance at the character from any annoyance with her performance. Right? So like I don't know if I can comment because it's one of those things where it's like you just kind of like don't really I just kind of like don't really like the character. So I can't tell if like my disgust is her acting it correctly or just not.
Like, maybe you're right. Maybe that's what it is. Because, like, to me, it was just. Like, every line she said was just the first fucking take. It wasn't like. You know what I'm saying? Like this, and I said, okay, take 10, right? It's like everything she read was like the first take, and like he said, okay, good, that's all we need. And it's just, I've seen her in other stuff, and she's better in other stuff. But I don't know whether like she was a relatively young actress back then, because this was this was what 11 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know if she was newer. I don't know if it was the direction, but and it's not just the character being annoying. She's just not very good in this movie. And I hate to say something bad about a person like that, but like I don't think she did a very good job as Inspector. Like, she's annoying, but I think she's annoying for the wrong reason.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's kind of where I fall on that. Like, I wish they would have cast somebody else. Speaking of casting somebody else, Ozymandias. Fun fact.
Okay.
Jude Law at one point wanted to play Ozymandias.
Okay.
He would have been a much better choice.
Yeah.
Just, what do you think of Matthew Good as Ozymandias?
I feel like he was. I feel like he was sort of forgettable, which is wrong. He's supposed to be like if you remember two characters. Sorry, I was going to say if you remember two characters from this book, it would be Dr. Manhattan and then Rorschach. If you remember a third character, it's going to be Vite.
Right.
And I feel like he was, through a combination of maybe his performance and also just like how the script was weighted, like he was, in my opinion, completely forgettable and didn't really feel like a formidable or imposing enemy at all. Like after the slick fight scene that we see like in the alleyway and in the prison, I didn't really imagine that it would be difficult for them to fight this Ozymandias. So
yeah,
that's about where I am.
Like, yeah, he's just so damn vanilla. Like, and like, I think honestly that might be a problem with this adaptation overall. It just feels very cold and antiseptic, right? You know what I'm saying? Devoid of emotion, and you can make that claim against the book also, but that's why I felt like it needed a little bit more flair in his directions, in his directing, and maybe some of the writing. You know what I'm saying? If the book, as great as it is, feels cold, you need to do something to warm it up at least a little bit. And it's just like his casting, I think, it just symptomatic to a problem with the whole movie, as in like it just feels a bit sterile in a lot of ways. So yeah, I think those two casting choices like almost ruined this movie, because he's clearly evil from the get go. Like there's no, I think Matthew Good is German, so he's trying to hide his German accent.
Okay.
And I think you can tell.
I mean, it's possible that's something where.
I think you could tell that he's like, maybe he's trying to fight through the accent, but yeah. So that's, and of course, you know, there's Patrick Wilson as Night Owl. What do you think of him?
Okay, well, obviously, I think he was kind of hot. If I keep complaining that he's too sexy to be Night Owl, which again maybe means that like I can't accurately assess his performance.
I think he's the sleeper in this movie.
I think he did really well.
Really, you think Patrick Wilson is hot in this movie?
Okay, well, so that's the thing, is it's like he's like nerdy hot. in this movie.
Oh yeah. I
Instead
know,
of being
I know.
like schlubby nerd that Laurie is settling for just because he's like literally the only man she knows, like he's actually like it seems more like it's a positive choice, you know?
You know what? You are so mean. I don't think that would happen in that book, but okay.
Um, I mean, sorry, I just my impression of that situation is a little different maybe.
That she settled. that she.
She literally didn't even speak to anyone else. She knows, like, here's the thing. She went from like living with her mom to like being Dr. Manhattan's live-in girlfriend to leaving Dr. Manhattan, and she calls literally the only other person she knows.
To be fair, they actually bring this up in the book. To be fair,
Uh-huh.
so you maybe you're not completely mean, but I don't think it was supposed to be 100% that. I think it was because Dan was actually, could actually. What she says in the movie, I think she's in the book, like John sees a lot of things, but he don't see me.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little look. As a slubby nerdy guy, I am not gonna take this slander. Okay, I'm just not gonna take
I
this
mean,
slander.
I like schlubby nerdy guys, but then like there's actually like a sex scene and he's got kind of like a cute butt.
He does. He does. Look. I'm not even gonna lie. As a heterosexual male, yeah,
Right?
just
So like
just thrusting too. We'll get to that, but yeah, but besides his cute butt, as you was just said,
aside from the cute butt, I mean, I don't know if I can answer objectively.
but I think he does really, really good. I like watching it this time, like I was just like, damn, Patrick Wilson is really good. Like I was like, I might need to add a third person to good casting. Like you know what I'm saying? Because like he has to carry a lot of this movie,
Hmm.
and I think he does it like wonderfully. Like I think he's really damn good in the role of Knight. I think he get all the nerdy parts right. I think he get all the hero parts. Like that transformation he makes after saving those people is really really like believable.
Yes.
So Patrick Wilson is great. What do you think of Laurie's mom?
Um, I liked her.
Yep.
But we had less of her in the movie.
Right. In the director's cut, there's more of her.
Okay.
Also, the scene where he talks to Silk Spectre. I mean,
Uh-huh.
when he talks to the scene where the comedian talks to Laurie after the failed crime busters meeting, right? It's actually in the movie. It's not like done in a flashback. It's
Okay.
actually like in the movie where it's supposed to be. It's really good. And then when she has the flashback, you know what I'm saying? Like it works better. Like that flashback she has in the movie in the theatrical cut when she's on Mars to that scene
Yeah.
works a lot better if you see it before.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah. Again, Jeffrey Dean Morgan knocks it out the park. So let's just talk like we talked about how like accurate this movie is, right?
Hmm.
So are there any particular scenes you think they took from the comic book that they did really well?
Um, okay, I mean it's hard for me to be specific because I watched it like a week ago, but um I remember I don't know, I remember once or twice being really just struck by like how the cinematography looked exactly like what I remembered from the comic book.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like actually some of the subtle stuff, like with Dan and the older Night Owl,
Right.
I feel like those scenes felt really good. Um, I, yeah, I don't know. I think it was, you're asking me hard questions and I'm sitting over here and I'm a little
I
tipsy and I've been thinking about Night Owl's butt and I don't know how to answer your questions anymore.
man, this is a serious podcast. I'm gonna need you to shape up. No, I think the scene with them in Vietnam
Oh,
is
oh
real.
yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. That right there, all the acting in that is really damn good, including Dr. Manhattan. I think that scene in particular really like gets it. I also going back to Night Owl, but the scene where he's just standing in front of his costume, butt naked, and you just see his butt.
Yeah.
So here's the funny part, right? That shot is not actually in the comic book like that, but in my mind it is. The thing about this movie is like it's so accurate, but of course, like some of the shots are like different. That stuff you think that's in the book is actually in the movie. Like that particular shot of him like just standing in front of his thing butt naked. That's in the book, but it's not shot the way like it is in the movie, which is just him standing there. You know what I'm saying? By himself, just framed by himself.
Yeah.
Like it's not like that in the other one. That blows my mind is with the psychiatrist, right?
Yeah.
And he's recounting when Rorschach pours the hot grease on the dude.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, in the comic book, Rorschach actually says, "You're like I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me, right?"
Yes.
Now he says that in the movie. He actually says it in the movie, and it's a cool scene, right?
Yeah.
That's not in the book. The psychiatrist is recounting it, and it's just words.
Yeah.
Like you don't actually see it in the book. But
Yeah, I know what you're saying, right? Like you don't have like the picture of Rorschach with like the speech bubble, like him saying it.
No. The psychiatrist is saying, yeah.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
But in the movie, you watch Rorschach say it.
You watch him say, you watch him do it. You like all that is not necessarily in the book, but this is so close and so accurate that it does mess it up, even though one is better than the other. So like those are the things that I think about. So you talked about the music. What is wrong with the music in this movie?
The music.
Obvious choices. Very obvious choices.
I mean, I think that so I think that whenever you choose popular music or lyrical music, you have to worry about distracting from what's going on in the movie.
Right.
And so my biggest concern was that the music choices were distracting, that like I noticed them. They weren't enhancing the mood. I knew like the lyrics to all of them.
Well, are you trying to tell me Hello Darkness, My Old Friend at a funeral is too obvious? What? It's too on the nose, you don't say.
Yeah, it reminds me of like there's those George Lucas interviews where he talks about giving John Williams a temp track and says like, oh, like I picked out music that I thought fit the mood of the scene, and then John Williams made something based on that. This is like Zack Snyder made a temp track and then they just kept it. And I also don't even want to think about how much money they wasted getting the rights to all those songs.
Well, it's Warner Brothers. They might have owned a good chunk of them.
But
yes.
Yeah.
No, like Zack Snyder, for all his movies, have like these weird, obvious music choices. There's only one pop song in here that I actually like.
Okay.
And used perfectly. And that's the Jimi Hendrix version of All Along the Watchtower.
Okay.
I thought that was used perfect when Dr. Manhattan decides that he's going to save humanity, and he pulls back and you see the smiley face and like that famous like just that famous like guitar and drum beat hits. Then immediately smash cuts to like the owl ship in Antarctica flying and stuff.
Yeah.
Playing that song at that very moment was perfect. Also, to Zack Snyder credit, that's in the comic book.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that?
The song or the scene?
The song, believe it or not. Like when they decide to go to Antarctica,
right,
to go see Ozymandias, And if you notice, there's always a quote
Oh
at the end of,
yeah, yeah,
and it said two watchers are approaching. He
yeah,
put it right there, right where it's supposed to be.
yeah.
And like I said, that's the only. I take that back. There's two Bob Dylan songs, believe it or not, because All on the Watchtower is a Bob Dylan song that Jimi Hendrix made famous, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the other Bob Dylan song, the other Bob Dylan song in this movie is actually the best part of the movie, which is the opening credits.
Yes.
What times are changing.
Yeah.
So what did you think of those opening credits? Like, to me, that's the best piece of filmmaking in the movie.
I agree. I love the opening credits, but I would have found them incomprehensible without having just read the book.
You think so? I think it sets it up pretty well. I think it does.
It gives you I mean, remember the first time that I saw this movie, I don't think that I had read the comic book.
Okay.
And I definitely got like the general impression of like a generation of sort of like chaotic drama going on with like superheroes. But like I wasn't recognizing who the superheroes were. And like if you just see somebody for a second, like I wouldn't have been able to name all the Minutemen.
Right.
From that sequence. I wouldn't have understood what the whole thing with the silhouette was.
Right.
I like all of those things were just it was pretty much like laying down a resume and saying, look, we read the book. We're allowed to make this movie.
To be fair, you're not wrong, but to be fair, Rorschach do comment on them and call them by name when he's going to see Dr. Manhattan. And he calls out those scenes specifically, like Mothman going crazy, whatchamacallit getting his cake trapped in the door.
But that's after that intro.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is. But
like I think it's surprising to me because I feel like Zack Snyder's a director who actually doesn't have that much confidence in his audience. So I think I'm kind of surprised that we were like expected to learn it that fast or catch on.
Well, I can't believe I'm saying this because I hate this saying. I think he really made this for the fans. I think even though this movie didn't make a whole lot of money, I think in his mind he counts it as a win.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, it's not terrible. It is as faithful as someone is ever going to get, right? You know what I'm saying? So, like, in his mind, I think he made it for the fans. I think he, like, fuck it, we're going to do this, and we're going to do it right. Everybody may not understand it, but we're going to do it. And, like, there's something to be admired about that, especially from a man that sometimes his vision sometimes outreach his grasp. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So okay, we I think we've pretty much went over everything. Let me just ask you a few questions. What do you think of Night Owl's snowsuit in this movie? Their version of the snowsuit.
It wasn't that cute.
No, it wasn't. It was cool looking, but like
that's what I mean. Is like in the comic book, it is a cute jacket. Like he looks adorable.
He looks just like a snow owl. He just
right.
Ruffle his feathers.
in the movie, they're like, no, he's got to look a little cool. I mean, like they took away the little snow scooters, the little jetpack segways or whatever. Like those were too stupid for them to be seen on.
You know, leave it to a man to be upset about these type of things.
Yep.
So okay, there's two adaptive choices that we I think we should talk about, right?
Okay.
One is Rorschach's death.
Okay.
Controversial opinion, I think it's better in the movie than it is in the comic. For one reason, Night Owl was there. In the comic book, when Rorschach is killed by Dr. Manhattan, he's somewhere having sex with Lori by a pool on his cape. Which
Yes.
in hindsight is very weird. That's a weird time to have sex, like at that moment, especially with Dr. Manhattan. You know, Dr. Manhattan right outside you with his
Yeah.
girlfriend.
Yeah.
But but they do a lot in the comic book, right, to kind of build that relationship between Night Owl and Rorschach, and it really doesn't pay off in the end. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And like I've always felt cheated by that, because there is that scene like in like the 10th or 11th issue where, like, you know, he blows up at him, like, you know, you live off people, yada yada yada, you know, it's just hard. And you know, Russia, like, look, I know I'm hard to deal with, but you've been a good friend. That's in the comic book. It's also in the movie, right?
Yeah.
So for him not to give a fuck that Rorschach dies in the comic book has always felt off to me. So to have him there for that moment and to be affected by it, I think works a lot better, in my opinion.
I agree. I think that's a good point.
You know what I'm saying? You don't like it's something I didn't realize until I seen it. You know what I'm saying? Because when I read it, I didn't think that. You know, I ain't I ain't necessarily think that, like, oh, that's a little weird. But you know, but once I seen it in the movie, like, oh, that's what that scene is missing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it gives Rorschach's death even more weight. You know, anything else you want to add?
I did want to talk about the costumes.
Well, that's his biggest Well, I got one more adaptive choice, but we can talk about the costumes
Oh, no, no,
because
no, no. Okay, no. Do your choice. Your adaptation.
he fucks up the ending. He fucks like
Yeah, that's right. We haven't talked about the ending.
Zack Snyder completely fucks up the ending, and it's very Zack Snyder like. Like with Superman, he's like 80% there, right? And the 20% he gets wrong is what make Man of Steel not a very good movie in a lot of people's eyes. Is that 20% that he should have got right? The most important shit he doesn't get right. Pa Kent, the destruction, Superman not saving people, yada yada. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Batman v Superman. He gets about 50%, 60% there. Then he makes these choices because he doesn't understand. The ending in this book, right, and like it's very important. And like you say, you're watching a TV show now, right?
Yeah.
So you remember in the comic book, there's the ending is Dr. Manhattan goes sees Ozymandias, right?
Yes.
And Ozymandias is in his quarters by himself, trying to convince himself that he did the right thing, right? And he's looking for reassurance that he did the right thing from Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah.
And Dr. Manhattan says, in my experience, Adrian, nothing never ends. And disappears. The biggest fuck you in the movie. I mean, in the book, right? The biggest fuck you, and kind of like summarize everything. Like, he did this for nothing. He killed all these people for nothing because eventually things will be back the way they are. That's very important. And it's something that's repeated often in the TV show. Because you know why? They understood how important that scene was. Zack Snyder didn't think that scene was important. And he gives it to Silk Spectre to say right before she makes out with Dan. And like, it doesn't have the same weight that it probably should.
Yeah, I was gonna say there was one aspect about the ending which I did like a little bit.
What's that?
So in the movie, there is no appeal to a giant squid monster.
Right.
Well,
no. Go ahead.
Instead, it's meant to look like Dr. Manhattan committed the attacks.
Which is, believe it or not, I actually like that better.
I do like that because it makes it for Dr. Manhattan to admit that this is like an acceptable course of action. It means that it's like his reputation at stake and that he still agrees that this is better overall for humanity, like means even more. And then like if he had said after that, like, oh, well, like even my reputation doesn't matter because, like, I don't know, the planet's just going to die in like a million years and no one's going to care anymore.
Right.
So I did like that they made it more personal for Dr. Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree that it is missing this. it's missing, because what we've got at the end is that there's a bunch of people dead. Humanity in general is panicked. None of the heroes are happy. Like, even the villain who succeeded in his plot isn't happy with it.
Right.
But the movie leaves it as maybe they're kind of okay with it.
And that's like it bothers me every time, and I think I might be the only person that it bothers, but like that bothers me every time that conversation is not there, because I do feel like it is the most important conversation in the movie amongst a million conversations in that movie.
Mm.
Okay, so Amanda, got all that out the way. What do you want to say about the costumes?
I thought they were super cute.
That's his biggest commentary on superhero movies at the time, because Ozymandias' suit definitely have nipples on it, and it looks like a Batman suit,
Mm-hmm.
and that's completely on purpose.
Yeah.
That's it. Just they super cute. How accurate do you think they are? Do you think they do a good job with the accuracy of the costumes?
So I felt like they were fairly accurate. I think I really do like the Silk Spectre costumes that they have in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I mean, we've already said, I feel like Night Owl looked a little bit too cool.
Right.
But like Rorschach was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with Ozymandias having more of like a Batman suit than like just a toga or whatever.
Right.
Dr. Manhattan's costume was great.
Really? I mean, look, I understand that he's naked and his like dick is out,
Mm.
but like it's like the same thing in the comic book with me. You know what I'm saying? It's just like he's so sexless.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even sure it's attractive. You know what I'm saying? That he's so damn sexless. Like, it just like there's nothing there. Like, yes, he's naked, but there's not like. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, because he's not, it's not provocative because it's not like sexual.
Right.
It's sort of like a matter of fact nakedness that is not like, I was going to say, honestly, for as much as I've said, I feel like the movie was too sexy. Like all Zack Snyder movies, there was like no actual, like nothing about this movie was actually sexy. It was like a very sexless, matter of fact movie.
Really? Because there's a very graphic set scene in this movie.
Yeah, but like, did it turn you on?
I ain't gonna lie, I kind of like that set scene.
Okay, I thought it was like the worst sex scene I've seen in my life.
Oh, like it's funny, and that's part of it. But
well, I would just compare it to.
Hey, look, say what you want. I know you were staring at Patrick Wilson ass the whole time.
I was staring at his butt. I would compare it to the Superman movies, where the old Christopher Reeves movies, he is charming and flirtatious and like really cute and like that is fun, and like I could imagine wanting to like see a sex scene in one of those Superman movies.
Okay.
But like the new one, okay, Henry Cavill is like objectively really, really attractive, but he did absolutely nothing in any of those movies that made me find him attractive or want to see a sex scene at all.
But you know what, man, you kind of weird though. So
I might be a little bit weird, but it's just
because because in a lot of ways you're kind of like a man in a lot of ways when it comes to like what you find sexy. Like a lot of women like to fantasize. You're all for the visual and sensuality. That's why you like the damn Star Trek movies so much, because it's like everybody just wants to have sex with everybody in the movies. And I completely
look. It's a movie, so I want it to be visual, right?
Yeah,
but I'm just saying that I feel like for me in particular, whatever Zack Snyder does to try to make things sexy, like, does not work on me at all.
I also want to talk about like sensationalism, right? Like I've never been a fan of critiquing sensationalism, like so I don't like to talk about like sensationalism because I feel like as a movie it should be sensational whether it's trying to show you something good or bad. You know what I'm saying? It's a visual medium. You gotta have that pizzazz. The rape scene in here is really fucking terrible and hard to look at though, and maybe he went a bit too far. Cause like it's even worse in the movie than it is in the book.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to feel like that. Cause like it's just not like it's not filmed like a rape scene. It's filmed like an action scene.
Yeah.
Like it had all the pops and cracks of an action scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's shot like one. And it's like I felt really fucking uncomfortable like looking at that. And maybe that's the point, but I don't think I felt uncomfortable just because of the rape, but I feel like the way he shot it just I don't know, it's something about it that didn't jive right with me.
I think that maybe, so like last time we talked, one of the things that I really was impressed about with the Watchmen book was how that rape was so thoroughly integrated into the story.
Right.
So that it was not trivialized and it was not included for shock value or to just make the book seem more adult.
Mm-hmm.
But because the balance in the movie is different, the rape feels like it didn't even like I don't even know why that scene had to be there.
Right.
It feels like everything else in the movie could have been motivated without it.
Right. He could have just been a big asshole and like maybe the same, and you probably could have said the same outcome. Like, Mom, how could you sleep with him? He was an asshole.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think part of that is what you were saying before about like we don't get those flashbacks from Lori until she's on Mars.
Right.
And if it had been an ongoing conflict throughout the story, then maybe it wouldn't have felt so like extra.
Right. Okay. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else that we cover? Anything? Anything else you'd like to say about the movie, Amanda?
I no.
Okay. So like usually I ask you would you recommend this or not, but let me ask you first. What do you think? Even though we just talked about it, what do you think of this movie as an adaptation of Watchmen of the comic?
It's a very faithful adaptation.
Uh-huh.
But it is not a replacement for reading the actual book, which is much better. So like if someone was like, "Oh, I don't want to read the book. Can I just watch the movie?" I would say no.
You know what? I've run against that a lot. I have a friend that's watching the TV show. I like, well, you gotta read the book first. He's like, well, I watched the movie, and I was just like, no, you gotta read the book.
Yeah.
So Amanda, I went out and bought him the book, right?
You should get a bulk quantity discount on them.
And you know what, Amanda? He didn't finish the book.
Can't blame him.
Huh?
I can't blame him.
You're like, nah, the movie is pretty good and it's pretty accurate. I just think I stick with that. And like, you talking about somebody infuriated. It wasn't because it was like a hard read. It was a hard read, but it's not a hard read for the reason you're thinking. You know what I'm saying? It's more like, oh, this is a lot of words. This thick like a real book. And there's a lot of words. And like, yeah, the movie good enough. And I just wanted to smash my head against the wall. Not even his, just mine.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, because it's so accurate that a lot of people use the movie as a substitute for reading the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Amanda, would you recommend this movie?
No.
You said it was fine. You don't think it's terrible, but you don't think it's required viewing.
I do not think it's required viewing, but
You
I would not blame anyone who finished the book if they felt like, oh no, like I want to watch the movie. I wouldn't blame them, and I wouldn't tell them not to.
right,
But like, I wouldn't go out of my way to tell people to watch it.
right. So let me see. I This is a hit or miss because I do think it's Zack Snyder only other good movie he's ever made, but that don't mean that it's good. But I did say like watching it this time, I liked it a lot better, but I'm still not in love with it.
I have a thought on rewatching things,
Uh huh.
especially adaptations, which is that the first time you watch an adaptation, you're always going to have an emotional response, which is based on the difference between what you expected and what you got.
Right.
And I think that's like what happened with the Star Wars prequels, is
Mm.
that people first had to grieve for their imaginary prequel. And then once they got over the fact that the prequels weren't what they were expecting, then they could go back and start to see if there were any like redeeming aspects of those movies.
And there is, but they're still not that great.
Right. So
I
same thing like with the Watchmen movie, like the first time you watch it when it's not as good as the book, you're going to be like, uh. And then if you go back and watch it again, then you can probably appreciate it a little bit more.
right. You know what? Speaking of Star Wars, I wonder what time we'll do with this new trilogy because it seems like over time movies always get like softer. Like people soften on movies as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder what like years would do.
Yeah.
So Amanda, I think I've told this story before a couple of times. And I'm pretty sure I told you. Did I ever tell you about my watching experience watching this movie for the first time?
I don't think so.
So
I mean,
I'm sure.
you talked earlier today about just the experience of the trailer.
Okay, so I seen this movie in 2009 with my brother in North Carolina. It was me, my brother, and his brother-in-law. Right? We go see this movie. It was one of those things where I was coming up that weekend. You know, my son had just been born. Well, not just born. Like John was about like 8, 9 months, and his son had just been born. So we was up there to see them. But like, bro, Watchmen come out this weekend. He like, all right, don't watch it Friday. We'll watch it Saturday. So we left our wives with like these small babies to go see this movie, cause you know we're husbands of the year, cause we just had to see it, right? So we sit in our seats, and lo and behold, this man, this woman, and their two small kids walk in. Amanda,
Oh no, this is not a movie for babies.
no, they just seen the trailer and they just thought cool superheroes, and they sit directly behind us, right?
Oh no.
And these kids are little rambunctious. They kept kicking our seats, and my brother was getting really upset. I had to tell him to calm down. Like he wasn't gonna beat up the kids, but he about to tell the parents, "Yo, check your kids." I'm like, "Nah, it's fine." And they start kicking it, and they start kicking the seats after a while. But he was just so annoyed. We watching the movie, right? So I could kind of see them out the side of my eye, but more or less, I can feel them. Like I could feel them, right? And as the movie goes on, you can feel them stirring a little bit, if that make any sense.
Yeah.
Like you could, like you know what I'm saying, like, oh, that's kind of violent. Oh, he's naked, but like they ain't really showing his penis. So they're not saying this, but you could just kind of hear them stir in the background. And like as you know, this movie ramps up everything as it goes, right, Amanda?
Yeah. How
By the
far did
time
they
they got
make it?
by the time they got to that set scene, and fucking Patrick Wilson bare ass is thrusting in and out of the silk spectre, they got the fuck up and they yanked their kids up and got the fuck out.
Yeah.
And me and my brother died laughing loudly in the movie theater, like at the wrong time in the movie, cause it was just so fucking funny. Like, we already didn't like them, and the fact that in fact they ain't do their work or due diligence or homework, and like, because like we said, that set scene is really graphic, right? But it also goes to show you that they was okay with the violence. Well, they wasn't okay with the violence, but they'll stay for the violence. But as soon as some titties come out, they had to go. Yeah. So yeah, that's my Watchmen viewing experience story. Okay, Amanda, I think that's it. I think we exhausted this. So Amanda, if people want to talk to us about adaptive choices, where could they reach us?
We are on Twitter as Comic Book Club 52. They could send us an email, comicbookclub52@gmail. We are on Facebook as the Comic Book Club. And we're both personally on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram a little bit, but I don't know if I'm really up for discourse about Zack Snyder movies these days. How about you?
No. God, no. Oh my God, no. No, Amanda, I need to redo that. Hold on. Don't say anything. I'm just gonna say it again. Maybe I'll cut it out and put it in there. So Amanda, if people want to talk to us about Patrick Wilson, but what could they reach us? Okay, thank you. I might put that. Hello.
Yeah. Okay. No. Honestly, if they just want to talk about his butt, then they can find me, my personal address. We can meet up for brunch. We can have a butt brunch.
You know what? Never mind. I'm not taking none of that out. They're gonna hit the taking everything in your response because that was funny. A butt brunch. Yeah. Okay. So, man, what are we reading next week?
I'm not. Oh no. We are reading stuff next week. I was like, I'm not reading anything next week. We are doing Doomsday Clock.
Yes, we are. The Jeff Johns penned Doomsday Clock. The written sequel, the comic book sequel to Watchmen. This should be interesting. Are you excited for this one, Amanda?
I am very interested because I have also started checking out the HBO series. And even after one or two episodes, actually, honestly, after like 10 minutes, I was appreciating that the world that Alan Moore built, this alternate history world, this almost normal world, is so interesting that there's a ton of other stories I would love to see in this world or with some of these characters that aren't like the main storyline.
Right.
So I feel like there is a lot of potential without like changing the original book. So I'm more excited than I was.
Okay, that's good. So I guess that's it. Guys, please, email us or write us on our Facebook page or Twitter. I've been asking for like years now. Nobody ever sends us anything, Amanda.
If that means we're doing it perfectly, we don't have to change.
That exactly. Look, if you want to cuss us out, tell us we wrong, or how we can fix the voice. If you want to say I have a funny voice, fine. Just anything would be great. Okay, with that, I'm Jamil Payne.
I'm Amanda Comey.
And we are out.